Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Inside Track, Equibase's weekly handicapping podcast, sponsored by FanDuel Racing, where we give our analysis, picks, and wagers for a couple of the weekend's top races. I'm your host, Ben Kudla, and today I welcome back on the show my man, Matt Vagvolgyi, prominent Racelens user who also finished third in 2019 NHC, giving his picks and thoughts on this incredible Breeders' Cup win, and you're in Stephen Foster at Churchill Downs on Saturday. So, Matt, so excited to have you on the Inside Track, bringing 20 years of handicapping experience. Love your Racelens videos with Pete on In the Money Media, and really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this wild puzzle of the Stephen Foster.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me back. Appreciate being here. And listen, it's a small field, but tough puzzle to figure out. So I think it's going to be a great race. It's it's nice to see that these horses coming back together and going to fight it out in what I think to be a really good challenge coming up on Saturday.
No, absolutely, yeah, definitely, yeah. Big puzzle, rain coming in too, and veterans against these 4-year-olds. But anyway, we will dive all into that. But before we begin. Tomorrow, which is Thursday, June 25th, is the last day to get 40% off all unlimited Racelens subscriptions using that code below, SUMMER40, SUMMER40, all in caps. Matt and I both use Racelens every day. We'll be using Racelens on this show to go over the Stephen Foster. We both can attest it is an incredible handicapping tool. You got customizable PPs, 50,000 different angles, interactive charts, individual research for any statistic you could ever want, all race replays, true odds, much more. So we'll be showcasing Racelens for this Stephen Foster. So save big today, get 40% of all unlimited Racelens subscriptions with code SUMMER40, SUMMER40. All right, well, let's dive into this Grade 1 Stephen Foster. It's the 45th running of the now $2 million Grade 1 Stephen Foster Breeders' Cup winning. You're in for the Classic this fall at Keeneland. It is going a mile and an eighth on the dirt for 4-year-olds and up. So we did have an original field of 7, but now down to 5 with scratches from Forge Steel and Navajo Warrior. Willie D is the one, is cross-entered in the Texas Turf Classic at Lone Star Saturday. Originally, Maker said he was going to scratch out of the Stephen Foster, and then 10 minutes ago, before we recorded this, he changed his mind to staying in the Stephen Foster. So kind of interesting. And the owners of Forge Steel and Navajo Warrior will both scratch. First reported by Blood Horse. Shout out to them. They'll scratch, quote, as a courtesy to handicappers. Kind of interesting. So we do have a field of 5 now with 4 Grade 1 winners. 2025 Horse of the Year Sovereignty, 2023 Breeders' Cup Classic winner White Abarrio, Grade 1 Dubai World Cup winner Magnitude, and Grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby winner by Aza. So pretty crazy for a $2 million race, just 5 horses, but this field is just insanely talented. To add to the difficulty, it is supposed to rain quite a bit on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Louisville. 95% chance on Friday, 95% chance on Saturday. So most likely looking at a sloppy sealed track as well. But Matt, I'll give it away to you. What are your thoughts in here? Who you picking? What's this pace scenario going to look like? I mean, Sovereignty went for the lead in the Oaklawn Handicap, or will Magnitude try to take it all the way like his predecessor, Gunrunner, in 2017?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's a challenging field, right? I mean, even with a small field here, it's still going to be, I think, a difficult navigation. I would say for myself here, it's really playing multi-race bets, if that's the case, is trying to figure out an area where I would really want to lean and not be inclusive, trying to find that one horse out of the group. But again, I mean, the amount of earnings in this field is kind of crazy. If you run down the list from White Abarrio, Sovereignty, Baeza, and Magnitude with the Saudi money in there as well. So it's a stacked field. It's a talented field. But again, to me, it comes down to, which White Abarrio is going to show up. Sovereignty always shows up, right? Just, does he get the setup that he wants? Baeza, I don't want to say I'm completely giving up on Baeza, but I think I'm pretty much there. And I think Magnitude is going to have a lot of work to do, I think, in this race. And again, certainly hasn't done anything wrong. Extremely talented horse and belongs in this field, obviously. But, again, I think will be a bit challenging coming from a pace perspective. But again, I mean, this is a great field. And when you get these smaller fields, that's where pace dynamics change. And, a quarter of the way through your race, you're scratching your head saying, how is fill in the blank on the lead? Or, how is all the way in the back. So you see this quite a bit with these shorter fields. So yeah, it's a tough puzzle. And again, I think it's one we want to try to drill down to maybe one or two spots and try to make some money outside of it.
Absolutely. My biggest question, besides can Magnitude repeat that performance in the Dubai World Cup, but Baeza, I mean, in that Ali Sheba last out, just left at the gate. And I mean, if they can figure out how to get this horse to break well, that could just add so much. But I did kind of put Baeza out, and I'll put our picks on the bottom. Matt's going with 2-3-5. I'm going with 3-2-5. So same top three, I guess 3 out of 5. But yeah, I'm going to guess Magnitude is going to go to the lead. I don't think it worked for Sovereignty. Obviously, it didn't at Oaklawn Handicap. So I think Magnitude is going to go to the lead. I could be wrong on that. I think White Abario is going to do what he normally does, sit up just off the pace. He likes to run alone, pounce on that final turn. But anyway, I see you picked White Abario. So, let's start with him. What are your thoughts on him? Why'd you pick the old veteran?
Yeah, I mean, White Abario is will always have a special place in my heart. Got me into contention in the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge a few years back with good friend Sean Borman doing it as well and winning it that year. So there's a soft spot in the heart for White Abario. I went from this horse is a super horse to having come to a conclusion of I think this horse is finished. I'm waiting for the tweet to come out saying White Abario has been retired, and never got it. It kept going and certainly has found his form. So that's the problem, right? Which White Abario is going to show up? I've seen multiple versions of this horse show up to the track. For me, I think Safi's got this horse going in the right direction. Safi himself is continually going in the right direction. I do also like, again, I've talked about this before, when you look at it from a jockey perspective, a jockey coming in with confidence, and you're seeing that with Irad here of progressively getting better. So again, you've got confidence there. You got confidence on the trainer side of things. I just think from a pace perspective, I think drawn towards the inside, will allow White Abario to sit right off that pace early on. And I think that's exactly where this horse wants to be. And, one angle, very basic angle that I built in Racelands, I can't even remember how many years ago it's been in there. But that's the positive thing with Racelands. You build something, you leave it in there. It shows up without you having to ask it. So it's a good thing with the data profiles you can build. Is a very simple, at Churchill on the dirt routes, looking for the best late pace figure in the race. And, White Abario shows up with that top late pace figure, a pretty big number there at 123. And why I like also too on the PPs, very easy to see this information. I've been looking at these PPs for many, many years. I can find a pace profile. I can find a jockey profile, trainer profile, very, very simply in just a quick look on the screen. And, something you mentioned before about potential weather coming in too. I mean, that's something, I would say if you're a Racelands user, I would look into those custom PPs like you've got on there. You've got your template built in there of doing one. I have one specifically that's for off tracks, right? So again, it helps me focus in on what are the most important races to look at for the particular race. But long-winded answer to your question, I think White Abario gets the setup. It's got that top late pace figure. Again, just to run through those stats. I mean, over the last year, 34% ROI. If you look at it from the current meet, 95% ROI, 38% strike rate on the win end, and is positive over a 5-year period. So, I mean, 27% winners and still a positive 19% ROI for just a very basic, simple angle. But it gets me to look at these types of horses. And again, I think White Abario gets that set up and is able to make that big move off the turn to run down Sovereignty and have a similar win that we saw last time out.
So I don't have your angles in, but I do have mine, which I do have a lot of late pace in there as well. I think it's really interesting. So this one I made, it does have a negative ROI. But this horse is in dirt route, all stakes, so graded and listed, highest late pace rating in the race, and they won last time out. It's negative ROI, but 33% from 368 starts.
Yeah.
Just freaking nuts, you know? So, no, I love that late pace, especially in these route type races. It does really well on the turf as well. But yeah, no knocks on White Abarrio. I really, really wanted to pick him. I mean, just a 4-time grade 1 winner, won a grade 1 at ages 3, 4, and 6, 7 graded stakes wins overall, 4 graded stakes wins and 3 grade 1 wins at this 9 furlong distance, beat Sovereignty last time out. You know, Safi, like you said, just adores this horse, and it's going to put him in the right spot. He thinks he can win. Been working sharp at Gulfstream, posted a 4 furlong 46.87. Is not most recent work, but the one before that outclasses this group with a 110. You can see their average class up here on the right-hand side. Second in average speed with a 105. You know, ranked first in late pace, like we said. You know, I just think this race does set up for his type of running style. And now just with 5 horses, he will have that ability to run alone, which I have read that Safi has said is his preferred way to go. You know, one thing in his running style, you know, he takes command at the top of the stretch, and then he has that little late kick, usually at about the 16th pole. But if you kind of watch his race replays in any sort of wet dirt, he's, you know, that's just kind of absent. And that's the reason I did not choose White Abarrio, but all the reasons, like you said, Matt, I love this horse. I'd be very happy if he won, you know, and I think regardless what he does this race, we'll see him back at the Classic. So I did put him in second. You know, I had to go with Sovereignty. I think he's gonna remain undefeated here at Churchill. He's 2 for 2 already. You know, no doubt of the ability of this horse. Broke his maiden here at Churchill by 5 lengths in that grade 3 Street Sense. You know, just went on a run for the ages, like we know. I mean, won the grade 2 Fountain of Youth, closing in a short stretch. Second in the Florida Derby, won the grade 1 Kentucky Derby over this sloppy Churchill track, which could be key. Skipped the Preakness and won the Belmont, paving the way for Golden Tempo this year. But it came back to win the grade 2 Jim Dandy at Saratoga, going this mile and an eighth over Baeza for the 3rd straight time. Won the grade 1 Travers by 10 lengths. Very disappointing end to his 3-year-old campaign for fans. You know, he was supposed to run in that Classic. He got a fever out of his tub. So they scratched him and was laid off all the way until April for that grade 2 Oaklawn handicap. You know, I loved White Abarrio that day. You know, Matt and I were talking about this earlier. You know, a 7-year-old going against 4-year-olds facing older for the first time. You know, it's just a good angle to go with that. You know, so White Abarrio was just best that day. You know, I thought it was very odd they decided to put him on the lead and set the pace. I just don't think they're going to do that in here. I could be wrong, but it just doesn't seem like it worked. You know, and this is after a second off the long layoff. So he really needed that race. I didn't run bad even in the Oaklawn handicap, but been training well at Saratoga. You know, now he has the experience against older horses. I'm not going to say it evens him up with White Abarrio, but it puts it on a more level playing field than they were in the Oaklawn handicap. And Bill Mott does pretty well. Second off the 180-day layoff. He wins at 18% all races over the past 5 years, but horses in graded stakes races, second off the 6-month or more layoff, wins at 33% over the past year. So I'll put this up. Green means it's a positive ROI, 21% over the past 3 years. So most recently, you can click on details and see these wins in order. Did that with Grand Job, winning the grade 2 Inside Information Stakes this year, Knightsbridge in the grade 3 Mr. Prospector, and Spiced Up in the grade 3 Mahoney. All second off the plus 180-day layoff in graded stakes. So I really, really did want to pick White Abarrio. And if it is somehow fast or there's no rain, I think I'll put White Abarrio on top. But he is 0 for 2 at Churchill. You know, it's going to be probably a sloppy track. Sovereignty's 2 for 2, 2 for 2 on the wet dirt. So we'll see. That's how I pick Sovereignty. But anyway, I do want to talk about Magnitude. We both have him in third. You know, what did you think about that Dubai World Cup? It was kind of slow, I thought, but he did beat Forever Young. So
yeah, I mean, so you're given kind of, I would say, kind of the two narratives of the race setup. To me, I don't think Magnitude is going to get anywhere close to what that horse got in Dubai. So I think the race dynamics are going to be very different for this horse. I think may actually get a little bit lost in this, even with a short field. I think might be further back than you think. That's just my opinion. And I think we'll have too much to do in the stretch. So I don't think this horse is going to get it, the way that he wants. But also too, you beat a horse like Forever Young, you certainly have to pay attention to that. I mean, that was a top play for me in the Breeders' Cup, and again, certainly a horse that stuck around and continues to improve, and it was a world-class horse. So yeah, you've got a couple of competing narratives there. I mean, coming from Dubai is always a tough handicap as well. How these horses will respond off of some of these bigger wins over there. The big thing for me overall, to kind of summarize, is I just don't think Magnitude is going to get the race that he wants. And I think that's going to ultimately be the difference when it comes down to hitting the wire. And I just think you've got two horses ahead of him that I think are going to be in a better spot and just can finish a little bit better. So that's, again, nothing against Magnitude, has done really nothing wrong. But I think, when you look at it from White Abario, and you looked at it from Sovereignty, I think those two horses are going to be just in a bit of a better spot than Magnitude. And one thing I'll add for Sovereignty too, if you're a visual sequence player, this is definitely your kind of horse. Every time that horse finishes second, goes off to rip off some wins in a row there. So
it's true. That's true.
That's always I try to look at through the public eye when they glance at past performances, what they might land on. I think that might be one of them as well. But again, nothing against Magnitude. I just think we'll run into two very difficult foes in this race, even though in a short field.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said there. He might not get the trip he was looking for, and you never know how these horses will come back from the Middle East. I mean, that had a class rating of a 126 in the Dubai World Cup. You're running against Forever Young. But one thing I'm a little bit scared about, he had that nice bullet 5 furlongs and 59-2 on June 13th. So maybe he is coming back a little bit better than we thought. And he's just been a monster with Jose Ortiz aboard, who has back on. He's obviously been able to win all the big time races this year. So that's a little scary as well. And the cross between Gunrunner and Magnitude is just eerily insane. Obviously Winchell Thoroughbred, Steve Asmussen had Gunrunner as well. But both Gunrunner and Magnitude, they both finished third in the Travers. Then they finished second in the Pennsylvania Derby. Then they both won the Clark Handicap, and they both won the Razor Pack Handicap. Both ran in the Dubai World Cup. Gunrunner finished second. Obviously, Magnitude won. And then after the Dubai World Cup, Gunrunner assured to win that Grade 1 Stephen Foster gate to wire. So just very eerily similar. I guess that makes sense with Steve Asmussen. But yeah, definitely scared of this horse, I'd say. He's 2 wins in a second at the 9 furlong distance. But yeah, just reiterating what you said, he might not get the trip he wants. It could be tough coming back from Dubai. But if he does repeat any of his performances, either in the Clark or in the Dubai World Cup, I think he's got a really good shot in here. And, we don't know these morning lines yet, but I actually think he'll be bet down more than White Abario. Could be wrong on that, since White Abario is such a fan favorite. But we'll see. We'll see.
It looks like morning line of Magnitude is 7-2.
Okay.
Let's see. Baeza 6-1, Sovereignty 6-5, and White Abario is 3-1.
Okay, so they're about the same. I did a Twitter poll on from the Echo Base Twitter, and I think it was like 40% chose Sovereignty, and then everybody was kind of in between Magnitude and White Abario in second. So kind of interesting. But anyway, I'm going with Sovereignty on top of White Abario on top of Magnitude. Matt's going with White Abario on top of Sovereignty on top of Magnitude. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a pleasure. I will have to do this again. And thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Best of luck in all your wagers this weekend, especially at Churchill, with an incredible Saturday card and closing day on Sunday. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.